1693.
Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, after last night's shooting on Michigan State University's campus, people are asking, why did it happen and when will the shootings stop?
And with more than 6 mass shootings now recorded nationwide this year, how are local schools being proactive in protecting their students?
Plus, storm chances going up as we head through the remainder of this work week. The latest breakdown ahead as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley.
And I'm Olivia Calfee. Investigators in Michigan are trying to figure out why a gunman opened fire on the campus of Michigan State University.
3 students were killed and 5 others critically injured. CBS's Jordan Burroughs reports from East Lansing, Michigan.
Students at Michigan State University painted the words, "How many more?" on a campus landmark following Monday's mass shooting.
It just needs to stop because this shouldn't have happened. It didn't need to happen.
Authorities say the gunman, 43-year-old Anthony McRae, opened fire inside an academic building in the student union last night, shooting indiscriminately.
We barricaded the rooms as quietly as we could, shut off every light. So it happened very suddenly.
University police said sophomore Brian Fraser and junior Alexandria Verner were 2 of the 3 students killed.
Last night's email said, run, hide, fight. And that was sort of the moment when me and my roommates kind of realized, like, this is different. You know, this is like something serious.
Campus operations will resume later this week, but classes at Michigan State University are canceled until Monday.
If this is not a wake-up call to do something, I don't know what is.
Officials say McRae, who had no known ties to the university, took his own life following a 3-hour standoff miles from the campus.
I know everybody wants to know what the motive is. We don't have an answer right now, and that's the honest truth.
According to state prosecutors, the suspect had previously been on probation for possessing a loaded gun. Officials say he also had a history of mental health problems.
As parents, we tell our kids, it's going to be okay. We say that all the time. But the truth is, words are not good enough. We must act, and we will.
An emotional governor asked for prayers for those still fighting for their lives. Jordan Burroughs, CBS News, East Lansing, Michigan.
And today is the 5-year anniversary of the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Broward County Public Schools is honoring the 17 people who lost their lives on that day in 2018. A moment of silence was held at 10:17. Then the school released students early for a day of service and love. Students, staff, and volunteers are invited to support each other through community service activities. The gunman who carried out the Parkland shooting is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Multiple bipartisan gun regulations are the result of the student-led protests following the shooting.
They say that tougher gun laws do not decrease gun violence. We call BS. They say a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. We call BS. They say guns are just tools like knives and are as dangerous as cars. We call BS.
Despite cause for change, the U.S. is reeling from dozens of mass shootings this year alone, including the one we just talked about at Michigan State University last night.
Yes, and just hours after the Michigan State mass shooting, a bill that would prevent police in Kentucky from enforcing any federal firearm bans made its way through the committee. House Bill 153 is essentially a second try for lawmakers. Last year, the bill passed through the House but never made it to a Senate committee. Last year, the focus was on making Kentucky a Second Amendment sanctuary state, and the bill's sponsor says that isn't changing.
What this does is it declares Kentucky a Second Amendment sanctuary state. It ensures that our local tax dollars won't be going to enforce Second Amendment issues that the federal government deems to be inappropriate.
Representative Josh Bray from Mount Vernon sponsored the bill and spoke at the House Standing Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Protection this morning. The committee passed that bill through with all but one yes. 67 mass shootings have been reported so far in 2023. That statistic is from the Gun Violence Archive.
And that number does include the one last night at Michigan State University.
I sat down with the local superintendent and school SRO officer to learn more about their safety protocols and procedures to keep students safe. School safety concerns have increased across the country as school shootings have become more common from one state to another.
The world we live in today, you just can't think, oh, we live in Eastern Kentucky, that won't happen.
Superintendent Combs says that the safety of their students and staff is a main focus each year, adding that emergency plans, in addition to monthly and quarterly drills, are vital to that safety.
We meet with city police, emergency responders, emergency personnel for the county. We all get together and have a big safety meeting and make sure that our emergency plan is in line with everything that happens.
Combs also says SRO officers like Tim Engel are important for additional security at the schools each day. But Engel says his job is more than that.
You're more a dad or a grandpa than a cop. You know, there's probably 1 or 2% of cop duties that you have to handle, but I can say that all the resource officers that I know around this county especially are highly trained.
Engel says he is always monitoring incoming visitors and scanning cameras, also paying attention to concerns from students or staff, saying he is a former trooper, but each SRO officer is also trained and ready to act in any situation.
The biggest thing is it tells you a lot of in-depth stuff about school shootings. How they happened, what times they happened, what weapons were used, what clues could you have had if you would have known it was a clue.
Combs and Engel both say it is important for people to say something if they see something. They say that includes parents. Both emphasized it is vital for parents to tell them if their student is concerned or has heard a classmate may have access to a weapon.
It's been an overcast and mild day throughout the mountains today as we continue to watch more shower and thunderstorm activity head toward our direction first tonight and then again as we head towards the day on Thursday. Here's the look right now from our camera in downtown Hazard. 63, the current reading at the moment. We'll continue to see quiet conditions tonight, even though we have a few of those clouds in place. Slade along the Mountain Parkway. 62, the current reading. It's all quiet. Still couple of locations in the upper 50s, but we've actually continued to warm throughout the evening. We're at 61 earlier, now it's 65 in many places. Jackson, Manchester, 63 and many others, so it continues to be a mild evening. What's moving through central Kentucky likely not reaching the ground, but what's moving through West Kentucky is, and that provides us with our first of this week's shower chances a little bit later on tonight. That's why we encourage you to keep that First Alert weather app handy. If you haven't downloaded it yet, go ahead and scan that code in the upper right-hand part of your screen. You'll be taken to where you can download it on your iOS or Android device. You open it up, you look at our forecast, you'll see we're in the 50s tonight. In fact, we'll start to see temperatures climb into the overnight as those gusty south winds begin to work in. I'll have the very latest, though, on when we could see not just rain showers, but the potential for strong thunderstorms in a few minutes. Olivia?
Thank you, Evan. A father who's back home in East Palestine, Ohio, says he's uncertain about the town's future after evacuations earlier this month. A train carrying hazardous materials derailed there on February 3rd and forced residents to leave the village on the border with Pennsylvania. More than 200 homes have been tested and cleared, including Ben Ratner's. He recalls evacuating with his family.
It was alarming, grabbing the clothes that you can, getting your animals out the best you can, and have no idea when you're going to be coming back. We have 4 kids, ranging from 2 till 15, and it's a lot to try to manage and keep them comfortable and happy and also safe at the same time, and keep your own sanity through the whole situation.
Ratner says he's still worried about his family's health. He says they don't use their water much since he wants to see more testing of it and the soil. He also says he wants a detailed list of the chemicals released during the derailment. Ratner says he and his wife had planned to open a cafe in East Palestine, but now they're not sure what will happen to the village of 5,000 people.
Senator Ted Cruz says he will run for re-election. The Texas Republican told reporters today he will seek a third term in the Senate in 2024. It's still unclear whether Cruz is planning a presidential bid. That's because Texas law does allow a candidate to run for Senate and president at the same time. However, when asked if he were running for re-election or would mount another bid at the White House, Cruz answered, quote, "I'm running for re-election to the Senate." Cruz ran for president in 2016 but fell short to former President Donald Trump during a bitter primary contest. Well, you can add another high-profile name to the list of Republicans that are running for president in 2024.
CBS's Nicole D'Antonio has the story from Washington, D.C.
And my parents reminded me.
Nikki Haley made it official this morning.
I'm Nikki Haley, and I'm running for president.
In a video posted on Twitter, the former South Carolina governor and United Nations ambassador talked about her childhood in South Carolina and how she was blessed to be an American. She also called President Biden's record abysmal and said the Washington establishment is failing Americans.
It's time for a new generation of leadership to rediscover fiscal responsibility, secure our border, and strengthen our country, our pride, and our purpose.
The 51-year-old daughter of Indian immigrants is now the first Republican to officially challenge former President Donald Trump for the 2024 GOP presidential nomination.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Trump declared his candidacy in November, and several other Republicans are expected to eventually join the race, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former Vice President Mike Pence, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. President Biden says he plans to seek re-election in 2024. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, the White House.
Haley said 2 years ago that she wouldn't challenge her former boss in 2024, but she changed her mind in recent months, citing, among other things, the country's economic troubles and the need for generational change, a nod to the 76-year-old Trump's age. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, making a career move to be your own CEO, small business advice to get your company off the ground.
Plus, more stormy weather on the way for the second half of this week, breaking it all down after this.
WYMT News app offers alerts on breaking stories as they happen.